Hello and welcome back.
Today I'm going to talk to you about Chapter 21, Preserving and Protecting Your Environment. Our learning outcomes. I'm going to explain the environmental impact of global population growth. I'm going to describe some major causes of air pollution and the consequences of accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And we're going to explain some of the effects of climate change and some of the effects of global warming, in particular with their impact on health. So let's talk about measuring the impact of people. People have a huge impact on the number of species. Species diversity is declining. Species are becoming extinct at an ever-increasing rate due to the impact of people on the environment. The large number and growing population of people is also impacting our capacity to supply food to people around the world, with food shortages occurring in many parts of the world. Land degradation is contributing to problems with food supply, and contamination of water and drinking water is also a huge problem as the human population grows. As the human population grows, energy consumption increases. That further impacts ecosystems, and with increasing consumption of both energy and products, there are massive problems associated with managing waste produced by society. So let's take a look. Here we're and now in 2020, population growth is projected to keep increasing through at least 2050, with projections of people climbing to 7, 8, 9, or even 10 billion people in the world. The world's energy consumption, with the increase in people, goes up. We're still using fossil fuels like petroleum at ever-increasing rates. Renewables are starting to increase. Renewable energy sources are starting to increase, which is helping with some of the shortfall in energy production. But those petroleum, coal, and natural gas products are polluting our environment. So what do we expect to happen? We expect the human population to reach a zero population growth. And we expect this to occur because as societies develop from early stage one through expanding agriculture and availability of food and medical facilities and supplies, you'll start to see through stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 expanding population. However, populations that have had access to medications and food for a very long time typically slow down in their population growth until such time as population growth reaches approximately the death rate. That means families tend to have 2 children per family. That's a replacement level. That number is in fact typically slightly below replacement level. You'll see countries, particularly countries like those in Europe, like Italy, and Spain, and so on. The population has even started to decline in some of these countries because families tend to have 2 or fewer children. If we look at the ecological footprint of countries around the world, that is how many resources are being used by a variety of different countries. You can see that certain countries are using resources at rates far greater than their population. And you can see that here, that the United States is among the largest and fastest growing industrialized nations in terms of its ecological footprint.
Along with population growth and increasing resource use, we're seeing more frequent food shortages around the world. Famine is often caused by political turbulence or armed conflicts, sometimes natural disasters. And this is resulting in increases in world hunger. Prevalence and consequences is more severe in developing countries. The primary causes is poverty. Poverty is often far more extreme in some of these developing countries than is seen in the United States, although food insecurity is a common problem also in the United States. The poorest of the poor in developing countries are typically female, and there's cycles of malnourishment where mothers are unable to nourish their children, children become sick and die, and these cycles tend to repeat over and over again. Hunger worsens with poverty, and poverty leads to more hunger. Education and providing people with clean food and water supplies are important to reduce world hunger. If we look around the world, world hunger and food insecurity, these are some of the countries that are most affected: the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Afghanistan, Ethiopia, Yemen, the Syrian Arab Republic, the Sudan, Pakistan, Haiti. You can see that many of these countries there is political conflict, wars, or deep natural disasters like the earthquake and natural disaster in Haiti. Here in the United States, there is an interesting paradox. Some people call this the Obesity Paradox. Side by side, hunger and obesity exist or coexist. In fact, the highest obesity rates in the United States occur amongst those people who are living in the greatest poverty. Typically, this is because fresh produce, healthy foods are not available in some low-income neighborhoods. Fresh produce and healthier foods tend to cost more, and for that reason, poor quality diets are consumed. These diets are high in kilocalories and low in nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. And because of that, people start to suffer from obesity through eating high-calorie dense foods, and at the same time are suffering from malnutrition because they don't have the vitamins and minerals they need to be healthy. You can see here that the map for obesity and the map for poverty in the United States. Large parts of southeast United States have both obesity and poverty. There are federal assistance programs in the United States. 1 out of every 5 Americans receives some kind of food assistance. The food assistance program that most people have access to is called SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This is the largest program in terms of dollars and the number of people served. About around 45 million people are being provided foods, healthy foods, through the SNAP program at a cost of around $75 billion. That is money well spent because that helps keep those people healthy and prevent disease and chronic illness in large portions of people. Unfortunately, relatively few homeless people receive food assistance, and there is sometimes a stigma associated with receiving food assistance, and people oftentimes do not seek out help and instead go hungry. Please don't do that. Here at the college, you can access food banks like Second Harvest. I urge you, if you are food insecure, if you are not getting enough food, or you are not able to eat high quality foods that are high in nutrition, nutritional content, please visit the food bank here on campus and gain access to foods. It's important to be able to study. You need to eat correctly to be able to study well and do well here at college. Air pollution is another problem caused by the increase in population and also our burning of fossil fuels. Some components of air pollution are chemicals like sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and we also see levels of lead in the atmosphere as well. Some chemicals contribute to particulates in the atmosphere or smog. We've seen that here in the Bay Area following fires. You can see a lot of particulates in the atmosphere. And those can be particularly harmful to people who suffer from asthma and similar conditions with lung function. So in terms of health effects, carbon monoxide is an odorless, colorless gas. This comes from motor vehicle exhaust and wood-burning stoves. Causes headaches, mental impairment, cardiovascular disease. Sulfur dioxide is a colorless gas. It can form acid rain. It's typically produced by coal-fired power plants and petroleum refineries. It's very irritating. It can cause asthma, chest tightness, shortness of breath. Nitrogen dioxide is a reddish-brown, highly reactive gas. Comes from motor vehicles. Some commercial products create nitrogen dioxide. Again, it causes susceptibility to respiratory infections and respiratory symptoms like cough and chest pain, difficulty breathing. And ozone is found again in vehicle exhaust. It's another pollutant that damages the atmosphere. It irritates the eyes and the throat. It's particularly toxic in terms of causing asthma and lung damage, and will damage the entire global ecosystem because it also damages plants and other organisms. Lead is a heavy metal. It's produced from metal refineries and battery manufacturers, sometimes in the process of making steel. High levels of lead will cause anemia, increases in blood pressure, cancers, and so on. It is particularly damaging and dangerous for children. Lead also occurs in paints that were used prior to about 1960. If you live in a very old house and there's flaky white paints, lead oxide was used to create very, very white paints. Be careful and make sure to get those paints tested and checked to make sure that they are not lead containing. And particulates, soot, dust, we've seen these from forest fires in the Bay Area, particularly irritating, cause huge respiratory problems, asthma, cardiovascular problems, and that's another big pollutant that we see often here in the Bay Area. We measure air quality with the Air Quality Index. Please use this. Make sure that you check what the air quality in the Bay Area is like before you go out and exercise, particularly if you suffer from asthma and allergies or other breathing disorders. The scale runs from 0 to 500. When it rises above 100, it is considered unhealthy to exercise outdoors. Here is a look at the Air Quality Index. Sensitive groups above 100 can suffer. Those would be groups, again, as I said, with asthma or allergies or some other breathing conditions, emphysema or so forth. When it reaches 150 and above, it's very unhealthy, and I would not recommend going out and exercising in those conditions. We talked about sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide. These can form acid rain. When that precipitates, the acid will fall onto the ground. It can damage water ecosystems. Runoff from farms and so forth can acidify streams and ultimately acidify waterways and wetlands, and those acidic environments can kill organisms like fish and so forth. They can also damage buildings and damage plants, trees, and have serious consequences for humans in terms of negative health consequences. Indoor pollution is sometimes ignored, but it is an important consideration. If somebody in your house is using tobacco and smoking, that is a dangerous form of indoor pollution, and almost as dangerous as smoking yourself. Some wood stoves and gas appliances can emit carbon dioxide and other gases that can be dangerous and can be damaging. Asbestos in old homes is a consideration. Asbestos was sometimes used to insulate old homes, and asbestos can cause lung cancer. Formaldehyde should not be used anymore, but it was used in many old home materials. Formaldehyde is particularly damaging, particularly to lungs and so on. Radon gas can seep from the ground into houses. It needs to be addressed in certain parts of the country, although it's not frequently a problem in California. Molds and fungi can live indoors and can be very hazardous to health. If any part of your house gets damaged, gets water damage, molds and fungi can grow. And when they grow, they can release spores that are very allergic and can trigger allergic reactions and illness. Again, lead is a metal pollutant, typically in houses. You find that in very old houses with paint. And sick building syndrome. When buildings are not adequately ventilated, occasionally organisms can start to grow in those poorly ventilated buildings and create situations where many people can become ill.